Mayor, let's go back 19 years. 9/11, most significant event that I can think of in most of our lifetimes, other than maybe the Kennedy assassination. When you first heard what was happening to the Twin Towers, where were you? And what immediately did you start doing at that moment?
I was at the Peninsula Hotel. I was having breakfast with my counsel, Dennison Young, and with Bill Simon, who was a good friend of mine. It was a primary day in New York. It was the day in which the Democrats and Republicans were going to vote to figure out who was going to succeed me. And I thought it would be a kind of slow day until the afternoon when everybody started accusing everybody else of cheating. So I had a nice leisurely breakfast. And at the end of it, one of the police officers on my detail came in and told my counsel something. Then she came over to me and said, "Mayor, there's a terrible fire down at the World Trade Center. It looks like a twin-engine plane has hit the North Tower, and I think we better go there." So the first notice I got of it was that it was a small plane that hit the tower. My first thought was maybe it was an accident of some kind. Maybe it was some kind of a revenge attack. We have that every once in a while. Someone is angry at a business. When I walked outside and I looked upstairs, looked up in the sky, and I saw a beautiful blue sky, I started to wonder, how could it be an accident? This looks like a beautiful day. And then the police commissioner got on the phone, and we were rushing down to the World Trade Center, and about a minute, maybe 2 minutes before we arrived there, I got a call from Police Commissioner Kerrick, who told me that a second plane had hit, and this was definitely a terrorist attack. And that's, of course, when I knew that it was a terrorist attack. And then we changed our entire approach. We closed down the city immediately because we were afraid that other terrorists would be coming in, actually from New Jersey, because that was the source of our attack in 1993. We dispatched police officers to every place that we had on our list of suspected targets because, you know, Mike, the thing you can say now, it was 4 attacks. But when you were going through it, you didn't know if it was going to be 10 or 20 or 30. This could have been the beginning of many, many more attacks. And when I got there, and I got right to the scene of where the fire department command post was, I realized this was a horrendous experience. I saw a man jumping out of the 101st floor, saw people getting hit with debris and dying. And I realized we were into some horrific attack that we probably had never experienced before. And I said a little prayer. I said to Bernie, this is way above our heads. We're just going to have to do the best we can, and then we're going to have to ask God to make it come out right.
I think everybody in America stood amazed at the leadership that you brought to the city and actually to the nation during that time. You took control. You managed what was an unmanageable crisis. I don't guess there's any way to prepare for something like that, but what was deep inside of you, Mayor, that gave you the capacity in the midst of grief? Because you lost friends. These were people, some of those folks, you knew them. So you had to separate your personal grief from the friends you had that were dying in that place to manage the resources and assets of the city to try to cope with all of the aftermath. But speak about that from a personal level.
Well, on a professional level, I had gotten used to dealing with emergencies and terrible catastrophic events. Nothing like this, but being mayor of New York, you know, there's an emergency a week and a catastrophe a month. And I was writing a book about leadership and how to deal with high-rise fires and hostage situations and other kinds of terrorist attacks, because we had them much smaller scale attacks. So I did have both a lot of experience doing it, and I had really very well-trained people. From the time we were attacked in 1993, we established a special unit for emergency management, and we trained every month for some kind of an attack because we always expected them to come back. We thought they were going to attack us in 2000 when we had the millennial celebration. In fact, we almost called it off because there were threats of attack. So we were prepared for an attack. We weren't prepared for an attack of that dimension. Personally, you're never prepared for it. Personally, I don't know what you do. I mean, the first really big shock that I got was when we were trapped in a building for about a half hour and weren't sure we were going to get out. Well, we finally did. And when I got to our command post, first person I wanted was Father Michael Judge, who was the chaplain of the fire department. And he was the person who kind of taught me how to deal with firefighters dying and police officers dying. And my fire commissioner came in and said, Mayor, I don't have to tell you this, but he's the first body we took out. And they're taking him over to the church. And then after that, it was a series of 3 or 4 or 5 of my most trusted people. We lost our top search and rescue people. So when we had to go through the search and rescue mission the next day, which was very, very difficult, we really had lost our top 10 people. They were gone. We had to put new people into those roles. And one of them, I just had a retirement party for him at Gracie Mansion because I was so close to him. And he actually led the rescue effort in Oklahoma City. He was the man who had trained everyone in the country on search and rescue. So I think what I did, Mike, was I said to myself, I can't think about that now. Like if this were an ordinary situation and someone had come in and told me that Father Judge was dead, I probably would take some time off and maybe I'd cry or I'd at least want to collect my thoughts. But I said to myself, I got to worry about this later because right now I got to keep focused on it's hard enough making the right decision. If you get it mixed up with a lot of emotion, you're going to make some horrendous mistakes. So I tried very hard to stay focused.
One of the things that I admired most, your tenacity to get the city back up on its feet. And I was a part of a group of 6 governors that flew up about 4 days after 9/11 at your invitation and that of Governor Pataki to try to say, come back to New York. You know, New York is going to rebound. It's going to be on its feet. I'm watching the contrast between what you were doing in that leadership role and what I'm seeing now. It seems like the leadership of New York, both the governor and the mayor, are determined to keep things closed as long as possible. I understand it's different. It's a disease and it's a pandemic versus, but it doesn't seem like there's any desire to see how quickly the city can rebound. And I'm not sure it's going to. It's a dramatic difference from what you did and what we're seeing now. Why such a contrast?
It's just the opposite. I mean, first of all, George and I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes after I got out of the place we were trapped, I called him. He said, you know, we're very thankful you're alive. We thought we were worried we had lost you. And we agreed, and I don't even remember our exact conversation, that from then on until the crisis was over, we were going to be together every day. We were going to hold our meetings together. The governor held his staff meeting, and I held my staff meeting in the same emergency management center every day. And we did it 3 times a day at first, then 2 times a day, then once a day. So we were tied together like this. And one of the reasons we did it, you'll understand this, Governor, is, you know, we could make a decision and then our staffs could argue about it for 3 days. And we didn't have time for that.
Yeah.
And then President Bush sent FEMA to us, and he joined us. So we had a very cohesive team. We were together every day. We made every decision together. If we made a mistake, it was a joint mistake. He wasn't blaming me. I wasn't blaming him. And if we did something right, we both got the credit for it. So I see now in New York, the mayor and the governor, although they're of the same political party, despise each other.
Yeah.
I mean, for the first 2 months of the pandemic, they never even talked to each other. And you would get completely contradictory information from them and very, very brutal criticism of the mayor by the governor, most of which I agreed with, but I'm not sure you do it during a pandemic. So it's a very difficult personal situation, and neither one of them seems to, by nature, be a manager.
Your leadership was also credited for building the finest police force in the world, not just in the United States, but in the world. The New York City Police Department, best trained, best prepared, most professional. And I see them now, and I remember back watching how absolutely first-rate they were in the face of extraordinary danger, as well as the fire department. And I see now their budgets being cut. the demoralization of the rank and file officers being told to stand down and just stand there when people are throwing things at them. It's got to be frustrating to you, having worked to build that city up to being one of the safest, most welcoming, most business-friendly cities, certainly the biggest, most significant city in the world like that, to see what it's become now with its major stores boarded up and people scared to death to get on the subway or walk the streets.
Well, I don't think I'm exaggerating if I tell you it breaks my heart to see that. I probably love the police department and the fire department beyond all other agencies. I had 4 uncles who were police officers and one who was a fire captain. So, and then I grew up as a prosecutor, so I work with the police department, you know, virtually every day of my life, prosecuting anything from a small case to the heads of the mafia. And so I was very close to the police department. And I had 3 superb police commissioners. I didn't do it all myself by any means. And we had wonderful programs, and we were very lucky. I mean, we put these programs into effect, and they were 3 times more effective than I ever thought they would be. And by the time I left, we had reduced crime by 65%. And then I turned it over to Mike Bloomberg, and he selected an excellent police commissioner, Ray Kelly. They reduced crime. Finally, it was down 80%. And to be followed by this man is... from the very beginning, he was at war with the police department. For some reason, he announced when the Baltimore riots were going on that New York City, you know, had the same racist problems as Baltimore. Now, that I don't know about Baltimore. I don't want to accuse him of anything. But we don't have racial problems in the New York City Police Department. We're a non-majority police department. We're not 50% white. We're not 50% black. We're not 50% Hispanic. We work very hard to have a police department that's reflective of the community. We have, you know, many, many black and Hispanic police officers. And the reality is they're attacked as horribly and sometimes even worse than the white police officers by Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's crazy. They're targeted even more than, like somehow they're sellouts or something. I don't understand this reverence for Black Lives Matter. It's a Marxist group. It's a terrorist group. They advocate the murder of police officers. They advocate the hatred of white people. They despise our country. We were discovered by an evil man, Columbus. Our first president was equally evil, George Washington. The author of our liberty, Thomas Jefferson, was horrible. And even Abraham Lincoln's statue has to be torn down. So they hate our country. And why these big corporations pay them money and baseball players and football players kneel down to them. It's an exercise almost like in communist propaganda. I mean, they don't bother to read a single sentence of what, I mean, Black Lives Matter is actually pretty transparent about what they want to do. All you have to do is read their leaflet or their statement of principles in 2017, and you can see they want to take your property, they want to do away with private schools, they don't want any religion in the public square. They want to be able to claim property from you like they were doing with that whole thing with the McCluskeys where they were standing there with their gun. People were yelling at them, "This is our house. We're taking this house from you. It's part of the restoration. It's part of the reparations. We're going to take your bedroom." And then, of course, they were talking about raping his wife. But the media doesn't cover that. They don't cover they cover the last 30 seconds of it. I interviewed the McCluskeys last week. Their daughter ran upstairs saying, you know, "I'm never going to see my father and mother again." I mean, these people are murderers. And they're treated like they're some kind of legitimate civil rights group.
Mayor, I just want to...
They're funded by George Soros, I should add.
I just want to tell you how much...
They're funded by George Soros, who also funds Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, and a lot of other horrible things.
Well, I want to thank you for being with us, especially, I know it's an emotional time, even 19 years later.
It is.
I'm sure it's still fresh and raw and always will be. But to have you to be able to share some of the reflections and even to talk about the city today. And we genuinely pray that New York is restored because it is a great city and it needs to be restored. I remember how grateful America and the world was for the leadership that you brought to it that made it a great place to go and visit and work. And I hope it happens again, but we'll never, ever forget the leadership that you brought to that great city and its people. And you'll forever be enshrined in our hearts and thoughts. And we think about you this weekend. And thank you so much for joining us.